A pleasant evening to all of you. We appreciate you being here with us tonight. With the purpose of shedding light on a highly serious topic and discussing a tragic and horrifying situation that has attracted the attention of many people, we have gathered here today. Imagine, if you will, a scenario from a movie in which the main character narrowly avoids being captured by the antagonist. The tense atmosphere, the terror, and the fervent hope that one will survive. Now is the time to put that sense of urgency into action and make it a reality. This is not a scene from a movie. Rather, it is the harsh reality that many women and girls in Kyrgyzstan are forced to face for many years. Kyrgyzstan is a country that occupies a position in the center of Central Asia and is known for its spectacular natural beauty. Kazakhstan to the north, Uzbekistan to the west and southwest, Tajikistan to the south, and China to the east are the countries that border it. The towering peaks of the Tian Shan mountain range dominate the scenery, and the region is home to a diverse array of cultures and traditions that are woven together like a complex tapestry. Kyrgyzstan is a country that is home to a varied range of ethnic groups, including Russians, Uzbeks, and Kyrgyz people, among others. The country has a population of approximately 6.5 million people. The religious composition of the country is predominantly Muslim, with Islam being the primary faith that is practiced by around 90% of the people. In spite of this, Kyrgyzstan is recognized as a secular state, a quality that is established in the constitution of the country. This secularism, on the other hand, frequently finds itself in conflict with deeply ingrained cultural and traditional behaviors. An example of such a practice is the disturbing custom known as ala kachu, which literally means grab and run. This practice refers to the kidnapping of young women for the purpose of imposing marriage upon them. In spite of the fact that it is against the law, this practice is still carried out, which highlights the huge conflict that exists between tradition and the fundamental human rights of women and girls. A complicated and frequently perilous atmosphere is created for those who are victims of this practice, as a result of the contradiction that exists between the preservation of cultural heritage and the protection of human rights. The little hamlet of Tokmok, which is located in the Chui valley of northern Kyrgyzstan, is where Asel Nogoibaeva spends her childhood and where she was born. Asel's early life was marked by the simplicity and beauty of country existence, which he received from his upbringing in a household that was not particularly wealthy. Agriculture was the primary source of income for her family, as it was for many other families in the territory. Asel's parents were determined to provide her and her brothers with a supportive environment and the best education they could afford, despite the fact that they had few finances at their disposal. As she became older, Asel's goals expanded beyond the confines of her hometown that she had grown up in. She made the decision to go to Bishkek, the bustling city of Kyrgyzstan, since she was motivated by the hope of obtaining greater chances and a more promising future. Bishkek was the place where she was able to secure employment and start constructing a life for herself, which marked the beginning of a new chapter that was full of hope and promise. The initial encounter between Asel and Azamat Estebesov took place in Bishkek. At a gathering of friends they both attended, Azamat's charisma and charm immediately drew Asel's attention. This is how their paths crossed. It seemed as though Azamat, a man who holds a secure profession and possesses an interesting demeanor, would be the perfect match. Their relationship progressed rapidly, and it wasn't long before Azamat made his proposal to Asel. After meeting Azamat, Asel's family approved of the union between the two of them. From what they could see, he was a responsible and kind individual who appeared to be genuinely in love with their daughter. In celebration of the marriage, there was a lot of happiness and hope for a bright future. The first few days of Asel and Azamat's marriage were filled with moments of happiness and harmony, and they were able to successfully adjust to their new life together. They envisioned themselves beginning a family and establishing a life together as a couple. On the other hand, when Azamat's true nature became more apparent, the appearance of a perfect marriage started to fall apart. Suddenly, Asel was confronted with the first instance of violence, which shattered his sense of love and security. Azamat's rage boiled up into a physical assault before she even realized it. It was a minor quarrel that abruptly escalated into a physical altercation at that moment. The stark reality of her husband's violent behavior left Asel in a state of shock and profound pain, and she was left to deal with it. After the event, Asel was subjected to a great deal of pressure from both traditional beliefs and societal expectations. Women are frequently urged to persevere through adversity for the sake of maintaining the cohesiveness of their families in Kyrgyz society, which has a substantial stigma linked to the institution of divorce. In the end, Asel found herself caught between the need to protect her own personal safety and the expectation of society to keep her marriage intact. In addition, her family strongly encouraged her to go back to Azamat, as they were of the opinion that it was possible to make amends, and that the initial occurrence was really an isolated incident. Asel made the decision to give her marriage another try in the hopes of a change and to cling to the vestiges of her love for Azamat before she made the decision. She went back to her spouse in the hopes that the violent incident was an isolated incident and that they would be able to work on repairing their relationship. This decision, on the other hand, marked the beginning of a torturous cycle of abuse that would characterize the rest of her life. As Azamat's violent behavior became more frequent and severe, this pattern would continue for the rest of her life. When Asel Nogoibaeva and her husband Azamat Estebesov moved back to Tokmok after their original relocation to Bishkek, she had the optimism that they would begin their lives again with a clean slate. However, the harmony did not last for very long. A return of Azamat's violent tendencies, which were now more aggressive and unrestrained, was seen. The victim was subjected to not only physical, but also profoundly psychological abuse. The increasing control that Azamat exerted over Asel's life included isolating her from her friends and family, keeping track of her every move, and demanding that she carry out certain behaviors. Unfortunately, Asel experienced a miscarriage as a result of Azamat's physical assault, which occurred during one of their violent confrontations. In addition to being physically terrible, the loss was also emotionally traumatic for Asel. Azamat's brutality simply increased, rather than providing help and consolation to those who were in need. A pivotal moment in her life was the miscarriage, which served as a harsh reminder of the perilous circumstances she was in. As time went on, the violence got more regular, and the control became more oppressive. A number of attempts were made by Asel in an effort to break free from the vicious cycle of abuse that he was trapped in. She attempted to cover her tracks by attempting to disappear without a trace, seeking sanctuary with family, and reporting the abuse to the local police. At every single instance, Azamat was successful in locating her and dragging her back into the nightmare that she had been attempting to escape. As a result of the combination of the cultural pressure to keep her marriage and the ineffective involvement from the authorities, her dilemma became even more complicated, and she found herself caught in a vicious circle of violence and helplessness. Asel was able to make her way to Italy, where she was able to flee in order to defend herself and pursue a better future. Despite the fact that the voyage was difficult, she considered it to be her only hope of surviving. Asel encountered a great deal of difficulty in Italy, including the acquisition of a new language and the search for employment. With the intention of establishing a new life for herself and her children, she labored relentlessly and saved every dime she could get her hands on. A persistent cause of sadness for her was the fact that she was separated from her children, who stayed in Kyrgyzstan with their parents. In spite of the physical distance between them, Azamat's presence was significantly felt. While Asel lived in continual fear, he was concerned that he may find her in some way, even if she was in a different country. She continued to concentrate on creating a secure future and making preparations for the day when she would be able to once again be with her children. Finally, after years of laborious effort and meticulous planning, Asel made his way back to Kyrgyzstan. After years of their father's abuse, she discovered her children in a frightening situation, having been neglected and traumatized by the abuse they had endured. The act of reuniting with them instilled in her a revitalized feeling of purpose and confidence. She made a solemn commitment to do everything in her power to safeguard them, even if it meant enduring Azamat's fury once more. The Azamat, on the other hand, did not waver. With the intention of establishing his authority over Asel's life, he persisted in harassing and scaring her even further. The unrelenting harassment took its toll on Asel, but she never wavered in her resolve to protect her children and restore her life. She was determined to do both. Over the course of several years, the last attack was the culmination of pent-up aggression and rage. Asel was left bruised and terrified for her life as a result of Azamat's escalating level of abusive behavior. The authorities were finally compelled to take action as a result of the severity of the attack. Although Azamat was taken into custody by the police, the wounds caused by his violent behavior continued to be visible. In spite of the fact that the intervention brought about some measure of justice, Asel's journey was not even close to being finished. These wounds, both bodily and emotional, will not heal for a long time. Her narrative, which served as a powerful reminder of the widespread problem of domestic abuse, brought to light the critical need for immediate societal reform, as well as the implementation of strong legal protections for victims. The bravery and resiliency that Asel shown became a source of inspiration for a great number of people. It served as an example of the strength that is necessary to break free from the chains of abuse and to strive for a life that is respectable and secure. Because of the terrible crime that was committed against Asel Nogoibaeva, the immediate response that law enforcement and the legal system provided was insufficient. It is concerning that the justice system responded in such a forgiving manner, despite the intensity of the violence that she was subjected to. Asel and her family were left in a condition of perpetual worry and uncertainty as a result of the decision-making process that resulted in Azamat Estebesov being placed on interim probation. Asel's everyday existence became a living nightmare as a result of Azamat's continued threats and harassment, which were not deterred by the probationary period in any significant way. It was the failure of the court system to protect her that brought to light the deeply ingrained problems that exist within the legal framework when it comes to dealing with incidents of domestic abuse. An inquiry and trial that were more comprehensive were eventually brought about as a result of the persistent threats and the public's demand for justice. The court proceedings were heated and emotionally charged, as Asel detailed the years of abuse and terror she endured at the hands of Azamat. She said that Azamat was responsible for her suffering. The evidence that was provided was damning, demonstrating the breadth of Azamat's influence throughout the situation, as well as the gravity of his acts. In addition to shedding light on the greater concerns of domestic abuse and the necessity of structural change, the trial became a focal point for activists and the media. After everything was said and done, the judge handed down a verdict that was final and gave some sense of justice to Asel. A lengthy prison sentence was handed down to Azamat Estebesov after he was found guilty of the charges against him. This brought Asel and her family a sense of relief and resolved the matter. Those who heard the verdict had a variety of responses. In spite of the fact that it was a success for Asel, which highlighted her bravery and resiliency, it also highlighted the long journey that lies ahead in the process of altering the legal system to better protect victims of domestic abuse. Relief, sorrow, and optimism were all emotions that Asel and her family experienced in response to the news. The emotional wounds that had been caused by the years of abuse continued to be there, despite the fact that they were relieved that Azamat was finally held accountable for his acts. A great number of people were motivated to push for more robust safeguards and support for victims of domestic violence as a result of this case, which became a symbol of both the difficulties and the advancements in the battle against domestic violence. Following the completion of the trial, Asel Nogoibaeva went on a route that would finally lead to her recovery and the restoration of her life. She had to go through a lot of surgery and a large amount of rehabilitation in order to make a full recovery from her injuries, which was a hard and demanding process. On the other hand, the psychological scars were more severe, and it was necessary to continue therapy in order to address the trauma that had been generated by prolonged or abusive periods of time. Asel's resiliency and determination shone throughout the entirety of the healing process, despite the fact that it was challenging and frequently painful for him. For Asel's recovery to be successful, the support of the general people was of the utmost concern. Soon after her position was brought to the attention of the media, a wave of solidarity emerged, with a large number of people expressing their compassion for her predicament and giving their support. This surge of solidarity was quite encouraging. A fundraising campaign was initiated with the intention of covering the costs of her medical care and offering financial assistance to her family. Not only did these acts of generosity and charity supply Asel with financial reprieve, but they also contributed in recovering some of her confidence in mankind, which in turn furnished her with the fortitude to carry forth. The support that she received and the suffering that she went through inspired Asel to make a firm decision to turn her negative experience into something good. This decision was driven by the fact that she went through the agony. Her first step was to begin making preparations for the establishment of a charitable organization that would be committed to offering aid to individuals who have experienced domestic violence. Legal aid, psychiatric therapy, and emergency shelter are all part of the comprehensive support that this organization strives to provide to those who are in need of assistance. A ray of light that will provide those who are feeling stuck and powerless with a path out of their circumstances is what Asel wants the foundation to be. She sees it in the same way that she did in the past. Diana, Asel's sister, has been a steadfast supporter of environmental causes, right alongside her sister. Throughout the whole of the trial and the period of rehabilitation, Diana served as a public spokesperson for the proceedings. As part of her responsibilities, she was responsible for drawing attention to the problem of domestic violence, as well as the structural deficiencies that cause victims to frequently be without protection. A multiplicity of awareness campaigns were produced by her, with the intention of educating the general public and campaigning for legislative improvements. These campaigns were developed through the exploitation of social media and community events on her part. As a vital component of their advocacy operations, they have relied largely on fundraising a great deal. The goal of their foundation was to collect the required financial resources to accomplish their mission, and Diana was the driving force behind a variety of different projects, such as crowdfunding campaigns and charity events, that were used to accomplish this goal. A community of activists and supporters who are committed to the battle against domestic abuse has been brought together as a result of her unshakable devotion and unrelenting enthusiasm. This has not only resulted in a large amount of financial help, but it has also done so. The personal suffering that Asel and Diana are experiencing is being channeled into a powerful force for change in the world through their collaborative efforts. Their foundation is expected to become a vital resource for victims, providing them with the resources and support they require in order to reclaim their original lives. This is something that is anticipated to happen. They plan to put an end to the vicious cycle of violence and develop a society in which victims are given the capacity to take control of their lives, get assistance, and be protected. They intend to accomplish this by engaging in unrelenting activity and lobbying the government. Her story of survival and perseverance continues to inspire a great number of people, despite the fact that Asel's path is not even close to being fully completed. As a result of her unwavering commitment to assisting others and advocating for structural reform, there is a glimmer of hope in the fight against domestic violence. All of us are reminded by her of the resiliency that can emerge from even the most trying of situations, and she serves as a catalyst for this. When we take into consideration the harrowing journey that Asel Nogoibaeva has been on, it becomes abundantly clear that the fight for providing victims of domestic abuse with help and justice is not only important, but also imperative. Sadly, the death of Asel serves as a jarring reminder of the pervasive and usually hidden nature of domestic violence, which has a devastating impact on the lives of a great number of people who are unable to see it. It is clear that there is an urgent requirement for extensive legal protections, humane support networks, and a cultural commitment to putting an end to this widespread problem. Her drive to pursue justice, which finally led to her triumph, underscores the importance of these important factors. As far as victims of domestic violence are concerned, justice is not merely about punishing the perpetrators of the crime. Rather, it is about restoring dignity, safety, and hope to those who have been through suffering that is beyond conception. Creating an environment in which victims feel empowered to come forward, knowing that they will be heard, believed, and supported in their efforts to convey their experiences that they have been through, is the goal of this initiative. Having comprehensive support systems, which might encompass everything from psychiatric counseling to legal aid, is of such great importance that it is impossible to overstate its significance. A great number of victims are in imminent danger of losing their lives, and these resources are lifelines that have the potential to determine whether or not it is possible for them to survive. Asel's bravery in expressing her story and her will to transform her suffering into a positive force are both incredibly motivating and encouraging. Both of these statements are extremely encouraging, bringing to light the crucial role that community and public support play in addressing this issue. Is the fact that she plans to establish a foundation for victims of domestic violence within the next few years. As a result of our ability to develop a network of support, we are able to facilitate the empowerment of victims, assist them in the reconstruction of their lives, and work relentlessly to implement collective action in order to prevent more abuse in the future. Your support is highly valuable to those who are watching our content. In the fight against domestic violence, every single action, whether it be monetary donations, volunteer work, or simply raising awareness, contributes to a larger campaign. Your demonstration of solidarity with individuals who have been abused and your contribution to the creation of a society that does not tolerate any form of abuse are both accomplished via your support of organizations and projects that are dedicated to this cause. With your help, it is possible to ensure that stories like Asel's have endings that are full of hope, justice, and new beginnings. This is because of the fact that you are participating,